Anthony Edwards just made NBA history, and it's time to sit up and take notice. At only 23, this Minnesota Timberwolves star has become the youngest player ever to hit 850 three-pointers. Though there is great skill in the NBA, every now and then a player surfaces who redefines the game rather than merely performs it. One such player is Minnesota Timberwolves explosive shooting guard Anthony Edwards, who is proving really exceptional. Edwards hit 6 three-pointers in an overtime victory against the Sacramento Kings Friday night, pushing him past the 850 three-pointer mark and making history as the youngest to have done so with ice in his veins and a strong will. In an amazing Friday night clash, Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves at last stopped their 3-game losing run. With Edwards leading the charge, the Timberwolves were able to thwart De'Aaron Fox's explosive performance and win an exciting 130-126 overtime against the Sacramento Kings at the Golden One Center. With 14 of 27 field goals from the field, Edwards put on an outstanding outing, scoring 36 points. Dealing 6 three-pointers out of 14 attempts, his sharpshooting was on full display. Over the first 13 games of the 2024-25 NBA season, his tally comes out to be an amazing 64 made three-pointers. Edwards has now struck 853 three-pointers over 315 games in his career. Stat Mamba claims that Edwards is the youngest NBA player to ever surpass 850 three-pointers, thereby creating history. Edwards has exhibited a notable rise in his three-point attempts this season. Following 13 games, he boasts a 53.9% three-point attempt rate, a career high. By contrast, he never achieved a three-point attempt percentage of 48.4% in any other season. Neither fans nor experts should expect Edwards to cut back on his dependence on the three-point shooting anytime soon. Former number 1 overall pick from the 2020 draft and 2-time NBA All-Star is striking these long-range shots at an amazing pace. He has averages of 28.4 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 3.6 assists per game while shooting 42.4% from beyond the arc. The Timberwolves' triumph drove their record to 7-6 and gave the club much-needed momentum. Given Fox's remarkable 60-point performance that kept the Kings in contention all through the fierce game, their victory was no small accomplishment. The NBA players of today clearly belong to different generations than those from past times. Former NBA player and current announcer J.J. Redick made news by discounting the competition legendary 1960s Celtics guard Bob Cousy faced, stating he was being guarded by plumbers and firemen. During an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Timberwolves star and gold medalist Anthony Edwards just sparked the discussion once more. Known for his openness, Edwards discussed his view of earlier generations of basketball players. "I can't touch on it since I didn't watch it back in the day. Although they claim it was more difficult back then than it is now, I doubt anyone possessed skill back then. You know what I mean. Michael Jordan was the only one truly with skill. Therefore, they were like, oh my god, when they saw Kobe Bryant. Now, however, everyone is skilled." Edwards' remarks about talent levels provoked significant reactions, particularly given Jordan's competition against players still active today from the 1980s and 1990s. One such legend, Magic Johnson, answered Edwards straightforwardly on an appearance with Stephen A. Smith. "I never answer a man who has never taken home a championship. Not much has to be said here. He failed to claim a college title. Magic also asked if he ever won a high school championship either." Johnson's answer might have been harsh, but his credentials support his stance. Many consider Magic Johnson to be among the best passers and playmakers in NBA history, and his 5 championship rings give his case significant weight. Edwards, on the other hand, has not yet claimed a major title at any level other than high school, despite great skill. For record's sake, Edwards did win a high school title, but this has no bearing on Magic's overall thesis. Instead, Compared to players from 40 or 60 years ago, current athletes often are bigger, stronger, and faster, thanks mostly to improvements in training strategies, nutrition, and recuperation approaches. This trend is seen in all sports. For example, look at the 1965 New York Giants offensive line, which included 6'3" Hall of Famer Rosie Brown weighing 255 pounds. On the other hand, the typical NFL offensive lineman nowadays is still 6'3", but weighs almost 314 pounds and is most definitely more nimble. The same is true for basketball, as players today gain from modern training and data-driven tactics meant to maximize their skills. To completely discount the abilities of prior generations, though, would be a mistake. Often laying the groundwork for the current game, the legends of yesteryear brought special and highly polished abilities to the court. The unmatched court vision and passing abilities of Magic Johnson changed the point guard function. Years ahead of their time were players like Connie Hawkins, noted for his acrobatic play, or Pistol Pete Maravich, with his amazing ball handling and scoring inventiveness. The great tapestry of basketball history was created in part by Dominique Wilkins' agility, Hakeem Olajuwon's exquisite footwork, and Tim Duncan's principles. These athletes not only possessed abilities, but also helped to shape the game. Another very talented point guard from the past, Isaiah Thomas, pointed to the Last Dance documentary as a likely cause for today's player undervaluation of their forebearers. Emphasizing Michael Jordan's last championship win with the Chicago Bulls, the documentary focused on the intense intensity and toughness of the time. Thomas did, however, suggest that it might have also contributed to misunderstandings regarding the general aptitude and degree of skill of players from that era. Each period of basketball has advantages and disadvantages, really. Although players of today may have more resources and training advantages, it does not lessen the achievements or skills of those who preceded them. The game has changed, and along with it, the tactics and approach. Generational differences naturally lead to discussions about who was better or more skilled, but honoring the game's past involves appreciating every player who cleared the path. Oh, but about Edwards, there is also additional news. Karl-Anthony Towns has apparently been traded by the Minnesota Timberwolves to the New York Knicks for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a future first-round pick from the Detroit Pistons. John Krasowitz of The Athletic claims that this action was taken to maximize Anthony Edwards' window for the long run. Team insiders said that the Timberwolves sought to make sure Edwards, their developing star, could stay on a competitive playoff team for many years to come. This trade's extra flexibility would help to promote that vision. Moving Towns might also enable the Vikings to keep Naz Reid, a Minnesota fan favorite who is scheduled to be a free agent next summer. Shedding Towns' heavy 4-year, $220.4 million extension, which kicks in this season, will be a major advantage for the Timberwolves. Randall's contract, on the other hand, has 2 years and about $60 million left, including a 2025-26 player option. Running through 2027, DiVincenzo's team-friendly 4-year, $46.8 million contract gives Minnesota more financial flexibility. With the Timberwolves' much-needed flexibility to reorganize their roster around Edwards, who starts his 5-year maximum contract this season, this move provides. Krasowitz added some background on the justification for the action. It was getting harder and harder for the Wolves to see a scenario where they could keep this team intact beyond this season as the Timberwolves examined their cap situation and gazed at the scene across the league, Tim sources stated. Rudy Gobert has 2 years left on his maximum contract, while Edwards is starting a 4-year, $220 million max extension this season. Add to it significant raises for Jaden McDaniels this season and Naz Reid, and the Wolves had entered the dreaded second apron. that brings with it luxury tax penalties and obstacles for team building meant to strongly discourage teams from crossing that threshold for more than a couple of seasons. The relocation is meant to let the Timberwolves escape significant luxury tax consequences. Maintaining Towns would have probably required tough choices involving other important players like Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. ESPN's Brian Windhorst claims the luxury tax might cause Minnesota to lose more than $100 million this season. Based on a whopper of a luxury tax bill resulting from new contracts for Towns and Anthony Edwards, Minnesota, a franchise that has typically run frugal for decades, was facing losing more than $100 million this season, sources claimed. But it goes beyond this year. The following 3 years might be financially painful. Although the trade's reasoning makes sense, it is nevertheless an unexpected action for a team to divorce a player who was formerly seen as its cornerstone. Originally first overall in the 2015 NBA selection, Towns made a big impression in Minnesota. He guided the Timberwolves to a 56-win season and a playoff run with a second-round triumph against the then-defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets last season. Along with 8.3 rebounds and 3.0 assists, Towns was a vital player with 21.8 points per game on 50.4% shooting. The Timberwolves have determined that keeping roster flexibility and building around Edwards took precedence, even with his outstanding performance and the team's success. Without Towns, Minnesota helps to build a more sustainable and balanced team structure, therefore reducing financial burden and positioning itself to retain important players while maintaining its playoff goals alive. This action marks a new chapter for the Timberwolves, concentrating just on optimizing Anthony Edwards' potential and guaranteeing the team's competitiveness in the changing NBA scene. Anthony Edwards' record-breaking milestone is just the beginning of what promises to be an extraordinary career. As he continues to evolve and carry the Timberwolves forward, fans can expect even more incredible moments on the court. So, what do you think? Could Edwards become one of the all-time greats? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more insights and updates on all things NBA.